From the KCIW newsroom, a special, in-depth report. I'm Lori Gallo-Stoddard, and you've probably heard about the lawsuit the Episcopal Diocese of Oregon and Father Bernie Lindley of St. Timothy's Church filed against the city of Brookings. The suit says the city violated St. Tim's First and 14th Amendment rights when it passed an ordinance limiting the number of meals it could serve at its property. KCIW reached out to both city manager Janelle Howard and to Mayor Ron Hedenskog for comment. Ms. Howard had no comment, and Hedenskog says that, in his words, it is not ethical or appropriate to comment on pending litigation. But this is a story that's gained national attention because of the constitutional implications regarding separation of church and state, and because it also has everything to do with the work St. Tim's does with the hungry and unhoused. It's unleashed a local tsunami of public passion on both sides of the issue. But former Mayor Jake Pieper says that's nothing new. It's an issue the Brookings City Council has struggled with for quite a while.
I believe that the council for a number of years, even when I was on there, looked at St. Timothy's as a problem, as an organization that was providing a service, but they were in fact a problem in the neighborhood and a problem for the community. And council's hands were tied because we believed that we couldn't restrict them from freely feeding people. And so what happens is St. Timothy, they get their kitchen license because they were asked to. And then the city says, well, shoot, there's no way to operate a restaurant in the neighborhood, but the state has this designation that's called benevolent kitchens, and that's what you are. We'll label you with that. And because it is now a land use, benevolent kitchens or restaurant or church, because it's now, we can call it, it's labeled a benevolent kitchen, we can in fact govern that and restrict how it operates like we do with restaurants or anything else.
Oh, I think they targeted us.
That's Pastor Bernie Lindley of St. Timothy's Episcopal Church. Father Bernie says he's not surprised by the council's actions.
I think they were upset that we were serving homeless people. I think, and of course this is highly speculative, but I think that they were unhappy to see us serving people that they would rather not be present in the city. And I think the reason for that is because homeless people have a tendency to generate calls to the police, whether they're warranted or not. And so it's an inconvenience for them to have homeless people around.
Again, Brookings former Mayor Jake Pieper.
The city had basically, I guess this is in my opinion, the city council had a view that we just needed to help all of the homeless people kind of head somewhere else, right? We just had to roust them out of town, help them along the way. I'd come up for different reasons to make that sound more humane, like, oh, we don't have the services that they need. They need to go someplace that can provide those services. But the general idea was we want anybody that doesn't have a house just to leave. We don't want them here.
And that attitude of we don't want them here isn't limited to the unhoused. Over the past few years, the Brookings City Council has voted multiple times to fire volunteers from various city committees who criticize some of its decisions. And while the Brookings City Council is officially nonpartisan, it's an open secret that members of the council are conservatives, and all of the volunteers who have been fired were not. The council cut ties with APF, the Azalea Park Foundation, a group which had for decades cared for the formal gardens at Azalea Park. APF member Holly Beyer alone spent years logging thousands of hours weeding, planting, and pruning the gardens. Among others fired from their volunteer positions were Azalea Park Foundation President Teresa Lawson, who ran and lost against Pieper in the 2018 election, and APF Treasurer Candace Michelle. Michelle is also a founding member of KCIW, Curry Coast Community Radio. She and former Mayor Pieper recorded a series of radio programs called Building Bridges in an attempt to build trust and understanding in the community. Their conversations were wide-ranging, sometimes touching on difficult subjects, but were consistently wrapped in the framework of respectful dialogue. Here's an excerpt.
If you're in that percentage of people, though, that aren't really welcome to the table, It just kind of like sucks to be you, you know?
Yep. Yeah,
You know?
it's not the way public officials should govern. It's just not. It's not respectful, it's not fair, and it's not good governance. It's just not. There is and has been a climate of intimidation here for certainly for certain people to not get involved in city government. You know, it's pretty clear.
So I'm thinking about that culture of intimidation and lack of participation. So if that, like, I don't doubt that that's a fact. Obviously, though, there's still a serious lack of participation. I mean, you don't have a bunch of however you want to define the club or, you know, the other side. There's not a bunch of those running. There's not. Right. And there's definitely not much participation from. Well, see, I was just going to say there was definitely not much participation from the, like, you know, Democrat or left-leaning side, but I'm not totally sure that's true.
Yeah,
because there has been.
Well,
as much as any conservative side. And
I will just bring up my own experiences.
Yeah.
Just, you know, because they were real experiences, and I sat on the budget committee a while ago, and nobody ever reached out their hand. None of the counselors ever reached out their hand and said, "Would you like some help in understanding this budget?" And for me, that's a major failing, because the only way people feel welcome is if you take them by the hand and invite them in, right? If they are sitting around the table, but basically nobody talks to them, nobody tells them what's going on, you're not going to feel welcome. You're literally going to feel like you're on the outside of a circle that you can't ever become part of.
And that sense of not belonging has everything to do with the issue of St. Timothy's Episcopal Church, Father Bernie, and the lawsuit filed against the city of Brookings. The issue of the homeless here has been aired very loudly here in Brookings and in Curry County. It's a topic that has passionate supporters on both sides of the issue, and both sides came to a public head last spring when the April 11th, 2021 City Council meeting contained an agenda item about something called Project Turnkey.
5, discussion of support of Project Turnkey. City Manager.
Thank you. Councillor Alcorn had requested that this agenda item be added to discuss the council's support of Project Turnkey. Last week he had learned that the mayor had sent a support letter to the group applying for the Project Turnkey in Brookings, and was concerned that the council hadn't yet discussed that nor voted on it, so he'd asked to have an agenda item. I'd sent all of you just to find out if you were willing, and I had unanimous support to at least hear it, the discussion. So that's was put on the agenda. The mayor and or each individual councillor does have the right to individually write a letter, as long as they disclose that it's, or communicate verbally, as long as they disclose that it's solely their opinion, and not the opinion of the full council. And I gave you the quote from our BMC there that states that more eloquently. Last week, Councillor Alcorn had heard that on some recording that Mayor Pieper of the City of Brookings had provided a letter for Project Turnkey, and the mayor had since stated that it was a personal letter and wasn't on behalf of the city, just the person stating it used that terminology. So that was sort of the question at play there. Since it was so easily misunderstood, Councillor Alcorn felt that the discussion was needed to be brought to this agenda today. Just a little bit of background. I know we just talked about it maybe the last council meeting 3 weeks ago or so. The Oregon legislature did allocate $65 million this last year for Project Turnkey. $30 million of that was for the wildfires, and $35 million was for the other counties not affected by the wildfires. In general, the Project Turnkey is about acquiring hotels, motels, to turn them into non-congregate shelter for people experiences homelessness or at risk of homelessness, whether by fires or from other reasons. So we discussed it in great detail a few weeks ago, so I wasn't going to go into all of that, but I provided you at that time the different press releases and information regarding Project Turnkey from the Oregon Community Foundation, which is the sponsor of that, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that I could. And I know Councilor Einkorn has more of the background of kind of why he probably asked me to put this on, so it was his request.
Yes, I'd like to be heard. I've got quite a few notes and quite a bit of information to go through. I'll be as brief as I can. I want to take everyone back to right around the beginning of the year, late December, early January. I started hearing information from the people close to the homeless community that there was a large project potentially in the works. That project was Project Turnkey, and there was a lot of rumors going around, a lot of speculation, I think, about what actually it was. The rumor was a hotel was going to be purchased and it would be turned into a homeless shelter.
Counselor Alcorn was correct. KCIW interviewed Diana Cooper from Brookings Core Response and Beth Barker Hidalgo of the Curry Homeless Coalition about Project Turnkey on April 11th, 2021.
It was actually Commissioner Boyce that invited me into a meeting, I think it was like in December, about Project Turnkey, and I didn't really know what it was. Anyway, there was quite a few people in there. Gold Beach, the city of Gold Beach had some representatives in there. Beth was in there. And then we had, someone from NeighborWorks Umpqua and then a motel broker. Oregon Community Foundation is doing the granting awards. And I had reached out to several different organizations. I talked to NeighborWorks Umpqua about 2 of the motels here in Brookings. And we narrowed it down to one that was a pretty good fit. Beth and Curry Homeless Coalition submitted an application. I don't remember when you said that you submitted it. Sometime in the last week or so.
It was a week ago Saturday, so it's been 8 days since it was.
Yeah,
not that anybody's counting.
Not that anybody's counting.
And when will they let you know?
Well, it's a phased process, the review committee, and I will know either Thursday or early Friday morning if we're going to move into phase 2. We're in phase 1 right now.
Wow, that's only a few days away.
It's only a few. We're behind the curve here. Curry is coming into the game late. And there are other applications where they've done their due diligence. They've gone to the cities and gotten conditional use permits, or gone at least ensure that zoning is correct, and we're behind on all of those pieces, and so that's our focus now, is to get started with that with the city of Brookings this week.
If Project Turnkey, if we were able to get Project Turnkey, I should say, then we would be able to get a lot of these folks that are ready for more stable housing off the street right away, including some of our seniors and, people that Beth had been talking about earlier, about, we have a few people who have either early onset dementia or, some undiagnosed Alzheimer's. And so, and not just that, we have, there's many different types of folks, but there's certainly some that we could get off the street right now that are ready for housing and that would benefit from support.
Remember, Brookings Core Response Executive Director Diana Cooper wanted the support of the City Council for Project Turnkey. She was anticipating potential zoning and other possible roadblocks, so at the time, Brookings Mayor Jake Pieper was asked for, and he agreed to write, a letter of support for Project Turnkey. Now, this was a personal letter of support, not an official one, and that's an important differentiation. Let's go back to the Brookings City Council meeting and Councilor Brad Alcorn.
So it appears that the letter has been in existence since the beginning of January, and this is the first time that we're learning of it. And after confirming that the secret letter was out there, it was April 1st, again, when I contacted Megan Loeb. So Megan Loeb is, she's with the Oregon Community Foundation. Megan is directly involved in Project Turnkey and is directly involved in the issuing of the grant, the money. Megan told me that initially her response was, oh yeah, there's a letter on file from the mayor and the city supporting the project. And then our conversation continued, and I explained to her what the context was. And she said, well, I don't have the letter in front of me, but I do recall a disclaimer being in the letter. So she said that the letter had been submitted with the original grant application that was back in January. In that conversation, I told Megan that this letter did not necessarily represent this council or the opinions of this council, and that we had never voted on it. And I also told her that I would be putting it on this agenda so that it could be discussed. Sure. I would make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign a letter that states, based on the information known to us at this time, we do not support Project Turnkey.
The motion passed, and Mayor Jake Pieper submitted his resignation the following day on April 12, 2021. Brookings' core response was not chosen for Project Turnkey, but according to its report to the Oregon legislature, in less than 7 months, Project Turnkey created 19 new shelters in 13 counties, 865 new housing units. And what's more, Project Turnkey sites were developed for less than half, and in many cases less than a third, of the typical cost for affordable housing. Again, former Mayor Jake Pieper.
I resigned because I realized that the city council, the direction, the political will they had, and the direction they wanted to go was very different than mine, and I think we were at an impasse. There were multiple issues that.
Tell me about the direction that it is going and the direction you want it to go.
So I hoped to better represent the entirety of the community, and for the council to better represent the entirety of the community, and not necessarily just the majority of the community. I recognize that the council, though we have some diversity with some things, we lack any diversity whatsoever with some major things like, political philosophy. Political philosophy, there really is no, there's no difference up there. It's a bunch of conservatives. It has been that since I've been around. I mean, predominantly the city council has always been a real conservative city council since I've been around. And leaving out, about 42% of our population. And I realized that that's not even necessarily the intention of anyone sitting on the council. I would have never said that I was only representing the people that elected me, the conservatives that elected me, but in reality, when the day by days of city and when we get public comment and whose public comment we listen to and take to heart, and the people that we encourage to participate, it's always been really evident that if you are not a conservative, you aren't really brought into the fold as easily.
You probably don't know this, but St. Timothy's Episcopal Church has been around longer than the city of Brookings has. The city literally grew up around the church. St. Tim's is still at 401 First Street, same place it's been since 1946, back when Harry Truman was president. Brookings wasn't incorporated until 1951. Now, a lot has changed on the corner of Fur and Old Country Road in the past 75 years. Homes sprouted up in the area, Azalea Park was built, but the church has remained, and the work St. Tim's provides to those in need has slowly increased. And over the years, Brookings has come to rely on St. Timothy's as a resource for social services. Today, you can find a toilet, food, a shower, clean clothes, and other resources at St. Tim's. And when the Oregon Health Authority took over all of public health in Curry County last spring and was looking for boots-on-the-ground partners, St. Tim's stepped up to offer COVID vaccines and testing and other services. KCIW spoke to Reverend Bernie Lindley and to the Oregon Health Authority back in August when the pandemic was surging.
Yeah, so 6 days a week we test. What we're doing is, we started doing vaccinations here at the church building back in early April. We started with Johnson & Johnson and then rolled out to have some Moderna also, and then eventually we were doing Pfizer also. We have all three in stock now. And it's Monday through Saturday, 6 days a week we test. And it's 12 to 3. And during that 3 hours, we'll see anywhere from 35 to 75 people. And like yesterday was 75 people. And we usually see about one person out of 5 will come up positive right now. And so we'll end up with somewhere between 7 and 17 people on any given day that we will have identified as a positive COVID case. And you're right, it seems from what I'm hearing, there's no other place to get a rapid COVID test in South Curry. And apparently it's difficult to get one even in Del Norte, to get one in Crescent City, because we've had numerous people. Yesterday we had 15 people come up from Crescent City to get tested.
Is St. Tim's becoming ground zero for all of the social services here in South County?
Well, it kind of feels that way.
My understanding is that the food bank has now closed because of COVID, and St. Tim's is taking over the duties for the food bank. Is that correct?
Yeah, we received a big shipment of food yesterday, and I think it was 2,200 pounds of food we received yesterday, but that's just what came from the South Coast Food Share. We also got some food from Grocery Outlet and then from some other private sources. So, we're going to be handing out food boxes today, and then next week we'll be doing the same hours as the food bank typically does, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 to 1. And we have a tremendous number of volunteers that are involved in that. So, but I wanted to, one thing that I forgot to mention is once somebody tests positive, and we tell them, okay, you're going to need to quarantine, they're going to go home and this is all going to sink in, and they're going to wonder, well, how in the world am I going to quarantine for the next 10 days? I got bills to pay and I can't miss work. So that's where the next step comes in. And that's what the Oregon Health Authority calls wraparound care. And right now in Brookings, we have 2 organizations that are doing that. And because we have recently become that second organization, it's a complicated thing, but they call us a community-based organization. So we just got that status earlier this week, and we expect to receive the money for the grant so that we can provide rent assistance, grocery delivery, and help with utility bills so that people can quarantine without worrying about how they're going to get their needs met.
Oregon Health Authority's Jonathan Modi.
We want to do whatever we can to support organizations like that to recover from COVID-19 or to isolate or quarantine. Can be a real financial burden. But people also need to be able to do that. They need to be able to recover or isolate or quarantine. And so we want to support them. And so we work closely with counties and community-based organizations.
A reminder, those interviews were conducted in August of 2021, but it's important to note the number of services St. Tim's was providing and continues to provide for the community. All of that has meant more people coming to the church property, and that has created issues. The City Council has heard complaints from the church's neighbors, and a petition was circulated and presented to the Council with dozens of signatures complaining about clients at St. Tim's. And then, at the October 25, 2021 meeting, the Council made its decision to limit the number of meals served at area churches.
In the matter of Ordinance 21-0-795, an ordinance amending a subsection of the Brookings Municipal Code, Chapter 17, Land Development Code. Yes, this is very simple script. We really eliminated a lot of stuff. Hard for me to catch up. Do Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 21-0-795?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 21-0-795.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, call the question, please.
Councilor Morosky?
Discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold 1 second. Any discussion on the motion? No? Okay. Take the toll.
Councilor Morosky?
Yes.
Councilor Schreiber?
Yes.
Councilor Alcorn?
Yes.
Councilor McKinney?
Yes.
Mayor Hedenstall?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The ordinance is now adopted.
That vote made 2 additions to the Brookings Municipal Code. The first added a definition of benevolent meal service, and the second said benevolent meal service was a conditional use. And that is what triggered the Episcopal Diocese of Oregon and Father Bernie Lindley of St. Timothy's to file their lawsuit against the city of Brookings. The new ordinance required St. Tim's to apply for a permit, and that permit would only allow the church to serve meals twice a week. Former Mayor Jake Pieper says he doesn't agree with the council's actions.
In reality, anyone that has ever been part of a church congregation in this area, like I have, and has attended for any length of time any sort of evangelical Christian local church, knows just how often food and drink is offered to people in that church. And we sit there and we break bread with each other. This is something that's it's a cornerstone and a foundation of Christian principles.
Now, Father Bernie is a Brookings local. In fact, he went to school with folks who work at the city, friends he's had all his life, and he says it hurts that the church is being targeted.
It's like they think we're the aggressor. One time I was accused of being a bully in a public meeting. And how are we? I can't wrap my mind around that.
Again, former Mayor Jake Pieper.
Truly, I would almost presume that those counselors up there, they believe that they are working for the good of the community and representing their citizens. And most of their citizens are saying things like, if you feed them, they'll come. And, if you give a mouse a cookie, they want a glass of milk. Sort of, very, very anti-homeless.
And the fact is, there is a homeless problem in Brookings and in Curry County. It's the same issue cities large and small are dealing with all over the country. People need help. And that's why organizations like St. Timothy's and programs like Project Turnkey exist. But it's unlikely this particular story will go away anytime soon. Fox News, The Washington Post, and The New York Times have already picked it up. And you may recall KCIW reported in December that the city of Brookings was called the nation's biggest Scrooge, receiving the dubious honor of Ebenezer of the Year by Beckett Law, a group that defends religious liberty. KCIW will, of course, continue to follow this story, and we will update you as facts unfold. You can find a copy of this report as well as supporting documents on our website, kciw.org, and archived meetings of the City Council are available at the city's website. That's brookings.or.us. And we remind you that KCIW is a nonprofit 501c3 organization. We depend on donations from listeners like you, so please donate early and donate often to KCIW. Thank you for joining us. For KCIW News, I'm Lori Gallo Stoddard.